Humans are plagued by two prevailing fears. One, a fear of death, the other, a fear of failure. At the core of our fear to fail is deficit in autonomy and trepidation towards responsibility. When we take full responsibility for our actions, the consequences rest solely on our own shoulders. To that end, we are the source of our own successes and failures. So how does this conflict with the source of government rooted in personal freedom? Freedom, after all, is responsibility, the free will to determine how one lives their life, and all the consequences that entails. Free societies are rare in the development of human civilization. People gravitate towards kings, leaders, and tyrants for direction. In this, they can alleviate the fear of responsibility. If our decisions are governed by others, we can share the blame for our suffering. Autonomous, strong-willed thinkers have created the pillars for these self-governing systems, yet they do not sustain themselves. This is the freedom paradox. The more freedom a person has, the more they are apt to discard it. The weight of responsibility's consequence is so overbearing that in a democratic society, the masses will inevitably vote away their personal liberties. How this is rationalized is ultimately inconsequential to the objective truth that fear drives this phenomenon. Historically, people have relinquished control of their lives in trade of the illusion of security. There is some evolutionary purpose in this. The tribe voluntarily gives to the alpha in lieu of protection, or at least the hope of protection. Our survivability as a species has depended on this since our inception. It could also be argued that no human is completely self-sufficient, and we are dependent on others. This in turn motivates humans to create governing bodies that rely on interdependence over self-governance. History also provides us ample evidence that complete self-rule or anarchy may not be viable due to the inherent selfish and violent nature of people. If one were to make the argument that due to these factors there must be some degree of hierarchical governance to preside over the people, how does one find the balance between law, order, and free will? What is the precipice to which the common man will abandon his autonomy for the collective or oppressive rule? There is no clear answer, as the dynamic of the human experience is too complex to establish a governing system that satisfies all parameters. It is reasonable to assume that the freedom paradox is a consequence of a multitude of factors, including worldview, macro and microculture, and personality type. Much of this is taught through oppressive systems over generations. While there are evolutionary benefits to the collective, we also see significant evidence that suggests that self-advancement is essential to our progress. We know that a predilection for independence is greater in those with a stronger sense of self. Collectivism in and of itself is not exclusionary to a free society. Confidence and bravery are the antithesis of fear. As fear of failing is at the root of the freedom paradox, its remedy is only through strengthening the self. The greater the confidence in one's own ability, the greater the degree of autonomy and self-determination. In terms of providing the minimal framework for governance, history provides significant examples of the most nominal and effective laws to govern a larger population. If we are to assume that total anarchy is unrealistic and ineffective, then we must look at the most minimal system of government as the true progressive course. Yet history has taught that people gravitate more towards authoritative governments as time progresses. Those intent on domination can instill a sense of learned helplessness in people, and over generations create weaker and less autonomous individuals. Times of prosperity can also breed generational ignorance to large-scale suffering, and, as suffering is the primary factor in change and growth, this can lead to widespread weakness and inclination towards manipulation. Education towards intolerance also instills a sense of fear and misunderstanding of others, which in turn leads to oppression through ignorance. The freedom paradox can be disrupted by teaching current and subsequent generations self-reliance, tolerance of others, and the establishment of a strong moral valuation system. Whether obtainable or not, the supreme evolution of government is no government. A total self-rule through internalized moral systems and a motivation for humanistic collective growth. Abandoning the self for the whole, ironically, can only exist through self-actualization and intrinsic belief in oneself. In order to lift up others, one must be self-assured in ability. Understanding fear, the illusion of control, and the meaning of suffering is also integral in this process. Begin practically with understanding that failure is not a destination, but a step toward success. Allow yourself to feel fear, but do not lose yourself in it. Confidence can only be gained through allowing yourself the chance to fail and eventually finding small successes along your path. If there's anything that's been discussed in this video that you would like to hear more about, please leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you and take care.